Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Power Up Radio with me, Dr. Pat. And I'm loving what we're doing. I am so absolutely loving what we're doing. And, today we have part 2 of a conversation. And let me just give you guys a background because we're going to cover a lot of things today. David is at the helm producing this along with Olivia. So we've got some new things we're planning for everybody. One of the things that I want to say to everybody is this. For those of you out there that are watching on Facebook, this is Power Up Radio. It's a different version of the Dr. Pat Show, and many of you have seen me do shows in Lime Talk Radio. So this is a different version. We started up Power Up a couple of months ago. It went on sabbatical because why? We're expanding the network, and my focus was on that. But today it is, and yesterday was the kickoff, and the conversation today is about Kamala Harris Unleashed. Kamala Harris Unleashed. What does that even mean? I'll tell you what it means to me. And Senator Harris did not call me and say to me, I think I'm unleashed. So I just want to say for everybody out there, this is a conversation where I have this idea or what I'm thinking about now, about this, about Kamala Harris. And why did I say unleashed? Here's why. So here is a woman, and yesterday we did a show where I talked about what it was like from the minute she became somebody in contention to the conversations, on perhaps your favorite cable show or whatever you watch. It doesn't matter. It could be Fox. It could be MSNBC. It doesn't matter. It could be any one of those. So what is it that started to happen? Just literally started to happen in a nanosecond. Well, I want to tell you what started to happen. What started to happen is what some people call, and some people would really, if you follow football at all, there are some guidelines about football and sports personship. And so when you take a look at someone that has entered a race, and it is a race, it is what you say is the upcoming election, and there are more than 2 parties, but we're only talking about the selection to be the running mate with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. And yesterday, what I did is I talked a bit about her history. I talked about my experience in California, although I never did meet her personally. But I also talked about the fact yesterday that I got real, look, I've heard our president call women nasty before and other things. And I don't know why. When he did it to her, and he said something like, nasty, nasty, nasty. And he talked about being nasty to Brett Kavanaugh, who basically lied to Congress. So he called that nasty. So I had to think about what does nasty mean? And I had to ask myself, am I part of that group of people? But let's just take a step for a minute and get to understand a little bit about Kamala Harris. So I asked my producer to go back and take a look at Kamala Harris. And, is there a way to capture this woman? Is there a way to, whatever clips are out there, is there a way to put something together to get a sense of her energy? Because you folks know, when it comes to me, I like to talk about energy. I like to talk about a lot of things. But here's the thing. When a woman comes to a table and she sits down and she is in equal footing with the other members, and she comes out strong, whether that's on a Senate Intelligence Committee or other committee or congressional committee or any committee, or maybe you're in the committee in your office. I know you know what I'm talking about. When you've come out strong, because I've been there. I worked directly for the president, the vice president, and all the vice presidents of what was known as the largest monopoly. So big, the monopoly, so big, they had to break it up. But what happens when you speak out? You know, what happens when you show your wisdom, your strength, your power? What happens? You get called names. Now, I want to say, nasty, nasty, nasty. I think I'm part of that club. But we want to give you a couple of clips to see Kamala Harris. And I think our producer put something together for us. Because I want us to have a sense of what powerful women show up as. You know, what is it about them that would scare the number one person, powerful, one of the most powerful countries in the world? And I wonder, how afraid do you have to be to stoop down to that place where the only description of a powerful woman who stood for justice is nasty? So I thought to myself, what is nasty? I thought, what could nasty be? I'm not sure 100% sure, but I'm just kind of wondering. I'm wondering, you know, when I think about that term, how many other women relate to that, right? But in the end, what the heck are we going to do about it? And so I got to tell you, for me, it's kind of like a new T-shirt I might get. Now, we've got a caller calling into the show. It's a live call-in show. Kamala Harris Unleashed, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Part 2. All right, David, who do we have?
All right, Dr. Pat, you have Jessica on the line. Jessica, you're on the Dr. Pat Show.
Jessica, what can we do for you?
So I have a question, and I'm not even sure really how to phrase it, but when we have a woman that rises to power, and then also a woman of color, where do you find the balance of voting for somebody because they're a woman or voting for somebody because they're a person of color versus looking at, like, do they align with your beliefs? Or do you just do it to support women or just do it to support people of color?
Well, let me answer that from a personal perspective. I have to say for myself that if you're talking about what's happening now in an election, that's one thing. If you're talking about in general, these are two separate answers for me. But if you're talking about what it means to you to vote for that person, that's a different issue. So my question to you would be, obviously, there's something on your mind about this. But if you don't find that you're aligned with that person at all, right, you have to look at what your options are and what the consequences are. You know, there were a lot of people that didn't vote in the last election, Jessica. They didn't vote. And they probably are not quite yet understanding, some people are not going to understand the consequence of that. But when you think about it and you're looking at, you know, perhaps your view of the world, and you may be somebody that thinks everything looks great to me, but that's not everybody. So you have to make these choices about yourself and about the people and about her. But I'll say one thing to you. I do my homework on people. And I've watched the debates. I don't know. Have you watched the debates?
No.
I don't know. Okay. So if you watch the debate, I watched the debates, and then I went back and I watched the debates again. And I watched what people said and how they say it. And I have to say that there was a moment in one of the debates, and this really to me is so important. And it says two things, not just about Kamala Harris, but about Joe Biden. But I've watched all the people in the debates. You know what the other thing is that I watched? I watched the Senate hearings. I watched the Senate hearings for Brett Kavanaugh, right? I watched Amy Klobachare take Brett Kavanaugh on. Nobody's really calling her nasty, but she did take him on. And she took him on for borderline lying. Then you watch the Senate hearings or the Intelligence Committee hearings of people that are asking questions and digging in questions, right? But what I find interesting about this woman of color, as opposed to Katie Porter, who Kamala Harris actually gave a job to, oh my gosh, a woman giving a job to another woman. Wow, are you kidding? Yeah, it's for real. But I watched Katie Porter's grilling of the banking executives, and I don't think anybody said, Katie, oh, that's nasty. So that was nasty that you asked that man why he couldn't figure out how to pay his employees enough money so that they can buy food. But why is it that certain stereotypes get that? But here's what I have to say to you. Take the lid off the jar. Take the lid off the jar and take a look inside and decide what you're going to pull out of the jar. Because you have to look at what people believe in. So this woman, Kamala Harris, for example, is been called within 2 days of this, the most progressive senator we have. Now, Bernie Sanders, I know, must be taking objection to that because Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are right up there. But all of a sudden, she's now the most progressive senator that we have. Liberal, progressive, Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it, put that around there. But is she a woman of integrity? Is she a woman that when she was when she was an attorney general, the largest office next to the federal attorney, this was her. And when you hear her opposition talk about her, meaning she's the prosecutor and people are like, no, don't send them to jail. They don't talk about her as mean, lock them up. They talk about her as looking at the case and saying, even though this marijuana offense, and trust me, people, this is a hypothetical, so you're going to have to fact check it. But this marijuana charge, it doesn't really warrant 10 years in jail. Now, I don't know how many Law and Order shows you watch or how many other shows you watch, but generally when you're a prosecutor, that is not something you negotiate down. So you have to do your homework on her, and you have to do your homework on him, or you have to do your homework on everyone that's in front of. But I'll tell you one thing, vote. Think about voting. For me, I think about what's going to happen if I don't vote for the people that are going to protect LGBTQ rights, that are going to protect Social Security and Medicare, that are going to make sure that everybody has health care across the board, that are going to make sure that we're doing something to take care of people that are losing everything they have right now, people that are going to step in, take control at the federal level and make sure we crush this coronavirus. Those are the people I'm going to vote for. And those are the things that are important to me. You just have to figure out what's important to you and who is that person? Who is that person that could deliver? Does that make sense?
Yes. So it sounds like you vote for the person that is going to make sense regardless of their race or their gender.
Right. But let's talk about something else. Are you able to not look at her race or not look at her Indian background? Are you able to do that? Are you able to see a strong, powerful woman? Has she made mistakes? Probably. I've made mistakes, right? My gosh, seriously? All of us have done that. But can we look at her as something other than nasty? Because you see, that along with now, they're saying she's not a citizen. And do you know why people do things like that, Jessica? Because there ain't no there there. If you have to resort to nasty and Bertha, it's a shame. But watch her and him. Watch them both. Watch what they say, watch what they do. And if you have a moment, I want you to watch the clip in the debate where she called out Joe Biden. Now, I'll tell you this. There aren't very many men that can be called out in that way, not take it personally, and then turn around and pick that woman who had her moment for vice president. So I gave you a lot of things to think about. I'm telling you to take them on. But the one thing that I'm saying for you to do, don't make any shallow or hollow decisions. Do your homework. Look it up. Look them up. The other thing, look up the other people too. When you take a look at Mike Pence, make sure you look at, why did he hide all his emails? Why did he try to send gay and lesbian people to a special therapy to, I don't know what he was going to change about them. But start to do your homework. Take a look at what's been happening for the past 3 years. Get informed, get educated, and then you decide. You get to vote for whoever you want, but you better vote. That's a long answer, but I like that question. 1-800-930-2819 if you want to give us a call. So, David, Jessica's good, right? So let's talk about Kamala. I think my producer put together a clip. David, do you have that clip of Kamala?
I do.
All right, let's roll it.
Now that she's sharing the national stage with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris.
As the daughter of immigrants, as a black woman, as an Asian American woman, as someone who's going to be disproportionately impacted by issues herself growing up.
I think people are excited. I think people are tired of what's happening. So I think people will show up to the polls.
One of the reasons I chose Kamala is because we both believe that we can define America simply in one word: possibilities. That's America.
As I said, Joe, when you called me, I am incredibly honored by this responsibility, and I'm ready to get to work.
Neighborhoods that most people don't drive through. I have this as part of my DNA, but I also come from a place where we develop a level of grit. So nasty for me is an understatement. Let me give you some other famous people, some other people that fit in the nasty category. I just want to give you a few. My producer's going to put a bunch up there. Let's talk about probably the nastiest, maybe. All of you, are you ready? What was Mary Magdalene called? What was Mary Magdalene called? Was she revered? No. What was she called? So far beyond the words nasty. That was her. Let's take a look at other women, right? Let's take one of my favorites, Joan of Arc. Do you think that Joan of Arc of France wielded a sword just like out there on a horse, victory, then tried, right? Think about this. Joan of Arc. She must have been like nasty exponentially. She had to be. I think if I ever thought about how people classified her, and I'm not talking to everybody, she's been revered since this, but I'm talking about put yourself back there. What do you think people thought of her? Nasty, evil, right? All of the above. Now, if I really want to get down, we talk about Elizabeth I. We talk about her. Now, I'm pretty sure she wasn't just called nasty. She was called like way more than that. And it goes on and on and on. Let's talk about Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks on a bus. We look at Rosa Parks now, and we have a sense of her. We look at her now, and we have a sense of her. But we don't know. We don't know how many nasties came her way. We don't really know that. We don't know about what that must have felt like for her to go through life and go through those early years and try to find her groove. But we know now that that bold move of action, despite what it was called, that bold move gave us pathway to freedom that we talk about today, right? So many others, right? So many others that we can think about if you go through and you think about them. You know, I often thought about Madame Curie. I often thought about her. I wonder, now, wait a minute, let me think about her for a minute. So what did she do? What did she do? She did what? She discovered some stuff. Do we think that she discovered these things and kind of said, oh, gee, do you mind if I come over there and discover a cure? Can I do that? Do you mind if I use you? No. These people were driven. I'm not saying anything else about them, but they're driven. They're on a mission. Unapologetic is my word. Let me tell you. Nasty. I'm part of the nasty club. I'm sure I am. I'm sure, like when Amy Klobachare was just, yeah. We're not even going to talk about this in the context of women like Hillary Clinton, Secretary Clinton. As many of these dirt balls that were thrown at her, she still got the popular vote in an election that many of you didn't vote in. Still got it. But let's talk about some other people. Put Kamala Harris aside. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about people that are from my generation. Gloria Steinem. I think she was called every name in the book. I just want to say about Gloria, because I know her, I've interviewed her. I just want to talk about her for a minute. Nasty would have been kind. I remember Gloria Steinem standing up and talking about women's rights when women were coming together and they couldn't decide if they should put lesbians in the package of women's rights. And Gloria got up one day, and you're going to have to look this up. You're going to have to Google it. She got up one day in total respect for what was going on the table. And she made a statement, and she walked up and she said, you know what? We're all lesbians. That changed her move. That changed her world. But we have a nasty club. We've decided we have to talk about our nasty club. Do you think you're part of the group? Do you think you're part of some of the women that I just mentioned, maybe that have done great things in the world? Do you think that you have the potential to do great things in the world? Do you think you're part of that? Well, ask yourself this. Are you part of that group? I think we are. I think you are. I think there are men that are part of this group. And let me just say, it's not just women that get called this. You know, you can... that maybe we should buy T-shirts for, right? This interesting idea. And so we came up with an acronym for this. Because I thought about this and I said, what does nasty mean to me? I'm pretty much nonviolent. I'm nonviolent. What else? What else? What would get you to be nasty? Well, activist. I'm a nonviolent activist, right? But I don't stand alone. I'm a nonviolent activist that stands together with others like me. Maybe we don't get together on a show like this, but that's me. I'm a nonviolent activist that stands together, united. That's the acronym for nasty for me. That's what nasty has come to mean to me. That's why today I'm not even going to give you the dictionary definition of it because it doesn't make sense. So I am this new club. Are you a member? Are you a member of the nonviolent activist? Are you one of these? Nonviolent activists. Stand together, united, Y-O-U. See? Because united now, to me, this has been tricky. I've always been part of a group. But united, that's you. You. We are all together. This is us. So my sort of frustration with that term went away. Because if I've been called nasty, and trust me, I have, Boy, I am in the likes of others. And I want to tell you, the likes of others, you know, the likes of people that we think about, the Madame Curies, right? Let me just say, Elizabeth Warren. I could go through the list. Amy Klobachare. I mean, these are people you know, but how about people you don't know? I mentioned Rosa Parks. Seriously. You know, how about Emmeline Pankhurst? How about her? Do you know her? How about Ada Lovelace, right? I mean, definitely has to be in the NASLI group. But there are so many. But let me tell you one that stands out for me of my mom's generation, Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher. People used to look at pictures of Margaret Thatcher and they'd be like, oh, she's a you-know-what. So in the end, you're going to have to make your own decisions about this. But I wanted to weigh in on the nasty thing. And I wanted to say to Senator Kamala Harris, we got you on this. I hope you get some T-shirts made up. I hope we get some T-shirts made up. Because I am unapologetic for standing up for what I believe. I am unapologetic for saying to my boss, who every meeting would tell a dirty joke, don't do it again. I'm Dr. Pat. Thank you all for listening. Power Up Radio. I hope to hear from you on this. We're going to do a lot more on this as we roll forward. But in the end, as we said to Jessica, do your homework, follow your heart, and figure out what's important to you. We'll see you next time.